you intimately. Thank you, God, that your love for us never fails, that you never give up on us, that you will never leave us nor forsake us. You are holy, Father. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come quickly. Your will be done the same on earth as it is in heaven. Let heaven come to earth as it is in heaven. Let We thank you this morning that your presence is so sweet, Father, and that we have the blessing of just sitting before you and standing before you and receiving all that you are and all that you have for us. We thank you, Father, that worship of you is never dull. It never grows old. It can be fresh in you each time we come before you, Father. I pray, God, that we would be a church that would live a life of worship. That we wouldn't see it as this designated time of just music or a designated time of set aside just during our Sunday morning church, Lord, but we would grow to understand, or we would be reminded that worship is a lifestyle, that it's why you created us, that it's what we're intended for. So God, I just pray that you would reach into the depths of our souls this morning. Break us open, Father. Pour in your word. That the seeds that you would have to grow within us and to come forth would begin this morning. That they would be watered and nourished by your living word. And that those truths would begin to grow up within us and to bloom out into this world, that we may live a life of worship for you, God, in everything that we say and do. Holy Father, in everything that we say and do. Be to your glory and in your name. Amen.
Here's what we want to talk about. Dream big. Dream. And don't ever set it down. Or you're just going to keep messing with it. Comes and goes.
It cuts in and out on its own, I'm sorry.
Sorry. We're going to look at the life of Joseph. Genesis 37:3. We'll start with that. As you may already know, Joseph's life is going to be a trip through the exciting part of serving the Lord. 37:3. Joseph, a young man of 17, was tending the flax with his brothers, the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, and his father's wives. Joseph had a dream, and he told it to his brothers in verse 5. They hated him all the more. His father made him a robe. His father loved him better than everyone else, favorite child. He has a dream that they're binding sheaves. You know the story. And the sheaves bend down to him, 11 of them. And as you can imagine, his 11 siblings found that slightly offensive, and it says they hated him all the more. So, you can honestly expect that if God shows you something and you share it, it might not have the intended effect on your audience. In 2003, when we decided to sell our big house and take a year and drive around the U.S., my family literally said we were nuts. When we did it, we bumped into people who said, I wish I had done that when both of my knees worked and I could still walk around all these national parks and everything else. So purely from a secular point of view, it wasn't really that bad an idea. He goes and he tells his father in verse 10, when he told his father as well as his brothers, his father rebuked him and said, what is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come bow down on the ground before you? His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. This is absolutely not the last chapter of your life. You know that, right? We have been tempted along the way to take the dreams we've had and the dreams we want to have and set them down. My brothers hate me. My dad rebuked me, but I'm going to hang on to the dream. One of the things we start to notice as we read through this story is the exact parallels to Jesus' life. Luke 4:18, Jesus said he anointed me, sitting in the temple. You know what they did? They followed him out to a cliff in Luke 4:28, and they said, we're going to throw you off this cliff. Shared goal. Nobody listened. 12 disciples, minus one. Betrayer. 11 brothers. They take their little brother Joseph out, and they want to throw him in a well, just like they wanted to throw Jesus off the cliff. In, I'm not sure what year, I'm going to say 20-some years ago, some guy came to our church and he's like, you're going to be known as a man of many lands and many seas. Like, yeah, that'll work. Genesis 37:25, they come up with a brilliant plan. We threw him in the well, but we can actually get cash out of this.
Amen.
So they sell him off. The people who bought him actually turned him over to government officials. They turned him over to Potiphar. The people that bought Jesus actually turned him over to government officials. Is this story getting a little freaky?
Yeah.
He served Potiphar with honor. It's the right thing to do. My brothers threw me in a hole. Thank the Lord, one of my brothers said, don't kill the kid. They took his robes. Remember that part of the story of a different guy? His robe was covered in blood. They took it back to Dad, showed him a bloody robe, and said, kid's dead. Did Dad have dreams in his life? Did he have prophetic words over his life? I'm going to bless the world. Your kids, change your name. He served Potiphar with honor. He also wound up in Egypt later on in his life, and so did Jesus. Potiphar's wife, man, I hate this part, tries to seduce him, probably for a long period of time. Ultimately, you know the story, grabs his outer garment, keeps it, and lies about him. Lies are going to go both ways as you try and hold on to your dream. The enemy's going to lie in your face, and people are going to lie about you. I have a friend from my time in Bible school who ran a camp program for kids all up and down the east coast of the United States. They would send teams in vans, and these kids would do a camp, pack up on a Saturday evening, and Sunday evening they'd have another camp in another state. And they'd do the camp and they'd move on. Anyway, he was the head of that program. Him and I had some wonderful times together while I was at Bible school. And there was one night he was going to speak to the camp that was at the Bible school. Their flagship camp was on our campus. And one of my friends had driven up with a Porsche 944 Turbo. Handed me the keys and said, here's my only request. I don't want it back dented or scratched. I want it completely totaled. I said, would you like it back like exactly like it is now? Yeah, that's okay too, but he says, I don't want a half bent, half. I said, really? Statute of limitations is 7 years on car stuff, right? Okay. I'm driving up to a Bible school where literally I think I was making $1 less than minimum wage, which should be illegal, but they put the money against my school loans or my school classes. I didn't have loans. So they got away with that. And here I am driving a very nice car. So on the way up the hill, I see one of the secretaries. I said, get in a car, I'll drive you to work. Where did you get this? I drive her to work and I say, get Guy Gabriel, my buddy. I want to take him for a ride. She gets him, he comes out, he gets in the car. He used to call me Luch. Luch, where'd you get this car? I said, come here, I got to show you something. we went to a T intersection, and I kind of knew the car reasonably well. And I hit the intersection without even slowing down and just blasted through this turn. And I'm like having a good old time. Got a little over 100 miles an hour. I let go of the wheel. I said, boy, these things are stable under braking. Smashed the brake. This thing like stands up on its nose. And he's like, you're going to have to let me out, you know? We were just out having a good old time. And took him back, and he changed what he was going to speak to the campers that night. And it became, you could be an old Studebaker, or you could be a brand new turbo Porsche. You know, we were having a good time in the midst of some serious religious, spiritual stuff. You know, the Bible school I went to now has got to be 90 years old, 80 some years old. And I can only imagine what that did for my reputation, or his. Potiphar hears from his wife that the young man was trying to seduce her. Here's my theory. If he believed it, he'd had him killed. The man didn't have the courage to say or deal with his life after he said, listen, woman, I'm pretty sure you're making that up, and I watched you staring at him every time he walked by, and all of this. So here's Joseph again, feeling like I did the right thing at every turn in the road.
Praise God.
And look what I get for my troubles. I get to go to prison. So what do you decide when you go to prison? How you going to behave? Anybody here been in prison?
Yeah.
I was actually arrested once, and I got to tell you, I did not respond as well as I could have. I was arrested for possession. I'd never done drugs in my life. I was stopped for speeding by a policeman who showed up 5 minutes after I was standing outside drinking out of an artesian well, just a pipe sticking out of a mountain. He said, you were speeding back there. I'm like, yeah, that's probably true. But in his police car, there's no radar gun, and he wasn't following me. So it kind of felt like a railroad job. Then all of a sudden, he says, sit in a police car, I'm going to look through your car. Like, okay. I sit in the police car, there's a needle on the seat. Not my needle. He finds the needle, he decides, that's definitely you, tears my car apart, finds shampoo in a 35mm film container, which I used because I used to swim in college, and I don't want to carry the bottle and do it, you know, it's like, he tastes it and he's sure that's it. So my brother and I, back in a police car, go to jail, car's impounded, we'll go to the police station. His boss calls his boss, calls my parents, oh, I might as well just beat you right there on the spot. Calls my parents, calls his boss comes in and says, he's a young rookie, you arrested a guy this morning that had a bee sting kit with adrenaline and that's probably his needle, and that guy's going to die because you got to take that bag off. He said, you need to let these people go. He gives me the ticket for speeding and leaves my car impounded. I have to tell you, I did not go all Joseph in my situation. I got a large fire extinguisher from Rutgers University campus. Mind you, I was not saved. And took 3 other people, and we went and destroyed the parade in that town. We started squirting people until they ran everywhere. So there, that was vengeance number 1. We got stopped driving out of town. Of course, the police chased us. My brother's driving. I said, when he comes up to the window, I'm going to squirt him. My brother said, please don't squirt the cop. Please, come on. And I didn't. He said, what is that? I said, it's water. And I knew he really couldn't do a whole lot. He said, I want you and this car and that thing out of my town. Good. A few years later, I still didn't go all Joseph on him. I got a job in the county engineers department, which would put me in charge of signs and lines, traffic maintenance. I changed the speed on their speed trap. They had a place that went from 55 to 25, and they parked there, and they stopped everybody who came into town. I changed the speed limit, so he couldn't use that anymore. And then it's worse. The chief of police, new chief of police, I held that grudge so long. They changed policemen, they changed chiefs. I still didn't behave like Joseph. He put a sign up in the middle of town, no right on red. That's my intersection. All those signs are my responsibility. Take it down. I took it to the police station. You can't put this up. It was up a week later. Fine. It's mine. I took it home. 3 rounds of vengeance. That's who I was.
Authority.
I believe that Potiphar really wanted to free him. Just like I believe that Pilate really wanted to set Jesus free. This story is literal. And the odd thing in Pilate's situation is Jesus also wanted to set Pilate free. 2 guys, each wanted to set the other one free and couldn't do it. At least not at that moment in time. So, my friend Guy and I have a wonderful time while he's at the Bible school. He gets another pastorate in Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, I don't even remember. Some guy wearing a college or a professional football player wearing a Super Bowl ring. I don't know. Some hotshot football guy is the pastor, and he takes the job working with youth and children. Ultimately, things go south, and he finds out the pastor's wife is stealing, which is odd when you're in a church that has that kind of cash flow, and they were doing very well, and he had his professional football cash, probably some of it laying around. I'm telling you, you will be faced with opportunities to set your dream down when the going gets tough. Joseph's sitting in a jail cell. If you set the dream down, you know what happens at that moment in time? The enemy comes and he says the things he knows will pierce your heart. You need to set that down because you're a loser and you were never going to pull that off. That really wasn't for you. That wasn't the Lord's voice. That was you. That was flesh. You're proud. You just want people to notice you. You just want to you want this, you want that. The other thing that will happen is the phone will ring and you'll have an opportunity possibly to pick it back up. I'll give you my favorite supportive line from the enemy that actually the Lord allowed to help me grow, to come out of my father's mouth in front of one of my high school friends. Everything you touch turns to S-H-I-T. So it was really exciting to be able to hear that while I was in high school from my friends. And at some point that wants to stick to you. The things, the hurtful things that were said at the most inopportune times, but find that little spot inside of you where there's a little bit of weakness and they want to exploit it. Every time in my life I want to set it down, like there's days, this past Monday, phone rings, the church is coming apart in Rochester, New York. One of the board members is on the phone. What do? We want to word this letter like that. Pastor has a whole bunch of girlfriends. I start doing research, find out not only does pastor have a bunch of girlfriends, that church has a 30-year record of abuse. They planted another church and that pastor's in jail for abuse. I'm like, oh Lord, now I got to do this. I got to tell that guy, not only do you need to work out this problem, you probably need to leave that church, even though you're a board member. And then another church situation and the phone's ringing. So I'm like, okay, Lord, I just want to set this down for a while. How about a nap? A nap would be fun. Drinking might be fun. Something. Let me do something. I'm downstairs working on a motorcycle in front of the house, and this old guy comes up with a cane and starts telling me how to fix it. And I'm like, Lord, wait a minute. Job's life, goes south, and then the friends show up and make it even worse. So I got this old guy telling me, you should do this and you should do that. And And I have to go back to the shop and plug in another motorcycle to charge. And so I run up the stairs, and I'm trying to make my life a little bit about me. And I head to the top of the stairs, and I know what I got to do. Come back. Daniel, want to go for a ride? I have to drive up to this warehouse and plug a motorcycle in on the charger, because this one's not working right. So on top of everything else, he says, well, how long you going to be? Do I have to walk? And he's got a cane. And shorten the story. And some of you who were out here for prayer on Tuesday night heard this. He tells me my wife died 10 years ago, and every day I come up with reasons why I shouldn't shoot myself. Put a gun to his head, pulled the trigger. He said the ammo was too old, the 25 caliber didn't go off. Put another round in the chamber and did it again, and it didn't go off. I'm like, well, Lord, anybody can hear your voice at this point. Did you learn anything from that? So when I was at a place where I kind of was a little stressed out and, doing what I thought was all the right things along the way, kind of felt like I really need a break here. And the Lord whispers, and that's one of the things I mentioned in prayer on Tuesday night. We got to be a people who hear the Lord whisper. That's going to be the first thing to go away when you're thinking you want to set your dreams and visions down. You're not going to hear the whispers anymore. The little person off in the corner nobody's paying attention to, whatever it is that the Lord wants you to deal with. Genesis 40, they put him in prison for the sake of all of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't know that at that time.
Wow.
There are times we're walking through our lives feeling like, Lord, this is not going according to the way you planned. Remember Pastor Buddy talked about the burning bush? I said to him afterwards, 3 chapters later, Moses is in the Lord's face. I did exactly what you said. Threw the stick down, did the thing with the hand, and you didn't do anything to set your people free. The Lord's not intimidated by those things. What you learn in that moment in time is he has deceived you or left you in the dark for a reason. For the good of all Israel. You got to go to jail for molesting a woman or trying to molest a woman you didn't even molest.
Yes.
How's that working out for you? Just keep hitting it, it comes back.
You got my A game, I'm sorry.
That's right. You're the man. We're glad you're back there. He's in custody for some time. How do you pace back and forth in a prison cell and keep the dream alive?
Yes.
How does a woman whose home life is down the toilet keep the dream alive? Husband's drinking, this kind of thing's going on, that kind of thing is going on. Scripture says that the Lord shouts over us, that he holds a banner over us that says love on it. He is the banner.
Amen.
We're pacing back and forth. I have no idea what it's like to be in a prison cell, and I can't imagine having no idea when it's going to be over. We tell our guys, you're going in for 20 years, if you behave, maybe you'll be out in 6, this or that. They would put them in jail until somebody either forgot about them or remembered them or... He serves to the best of his ability, and he winds up, now he's in charge of the guys in the prison. Meanwhile, he's dead to his family.
Mm-hmm.
They take the rope covered in blood back to Dad, convince him he's dead.
That's cruel.
Peter sees everything that's going on, denies he even knew him. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know who that guy is. A glimmer of hope in the middle of the prison. 2 guys come in and say, hey, we used to work for the big guy and I had a dream. And the other guy had a dream. Here's just a tiny glimpse into the humanity in the situation. He interprets the dreams. honorably says, gives God the credit for that. Way to go. But he tries to parlay that into an early release. Did you notice? He says, well, hey, when you get over there, put in a good word for me. Done that. Done that. Your heart motivation gets exposed in the midst of things. All of this time, God's plan is to save the Israelites. But the Lord also wanted to deal with Joseph. There was some issues in his life. One of the things I purposely skipped over, 37:2, it says he watched over the sheep of his family. It says he brought their father a bad report about them. He was a tattletale. Most loved child wearing a jacket. Dad, you know what they did yesterday? They let your sheep play in the mud. They didn't even clean them off. They don't love you like I do. They're no good. All 11 of them are no good. So the Lord had to deal with his life too. I can tell you, there have been some rough things in my life. You come to a place where you have to face what's inside of you, what you're made of. My friend Guy, in the midst of that situation, where he got in that other church and it was doing ministry and salary was flowing well, pastor's wife stealing, he finds out. Goes to one of the elders to talk about it. Next thing he knows, he's being fired for being an attitude problem. And they write a letter to the credentialing board that holds our credentials saying he's an attitude problem and we're letting him go from the church. They call him in the office. And Guy has the opportunity to hang on to his dream or set it down. They read the letter to him, and Guy's standing there with a broken, bleeding heart in his hands. And he makes the absolute wrong decision. Throws his credentials on the table, uses language unbecoming, and turns and walks away. My best friend from Bible school walked out the door. I don't need them, I don't need this. Bleep, 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 bleep. Spirals off into drug abuse. Four years ago, mom's holding her 30-year-old son as he dies of a heroin overdose in her arms, and she's a nurse. Which makes it worse, I'm sure, for a nurse, like, I can't fix this. And he dies in her arms. When Guy set that vision down, I went and picked it back up. Not for me, for him. There are times in your life when you're going to watch somebody step away from the deeper thing that God wants to do. Pick it up, put it on a shelf, and pray into it.
Yes.
I went back up on the hill to the Bible school and said, somebody has blood on their hands. Somebody needs to go after him. Because I did not believe all the stuff that went on. Something's not right. I actually called him and invited. We went to see him a few times. Until there was one time we just felt so uncomfortable, like we couldn't even stay in his house. I felt like he wanted us to leave. I invited him to speak when I knew he was completely backslidden because I wanted him to get face-to-face with God and try and give him a taste of what's inside that gift that he should be hanging on to and he wants no part of. And he did the honorable thing. He said it would be a disservice to the pulpit. I'm not going to speak. So I pick it back up off the floor, put it back on the shelf. And I got to tell you, this is not me bragging. This is a gift from the Lord. I was faced with the same thing only a few years later. Very funny situation. I'm in a church where things are not good. I am the youth pastor and I'm running a daycare center, and I am begging God to let me leave there. And the young men that live in our home, 3 at that point, were on the worship team, and they used to beg me on Sundays, please don't make us go to worship practice, please, please. So you will go and you will serve, and we will be the people who serve the kingdom of God. And we don't care if other people are fighting and don't really want to play church songs and don't. I leave that church. They closed the daycare center. Well, I was a board member and an elder. They closed the daycare center. Well, I had all their youth in Canada, a big youth event up there. Didn't tell me about it until I got back. I was so excited. They thought I would be angry and hurt and all that. I was so excited. I was like, yes, Lord, I'm released. We can go. And another pastor in town who was a friend came to me and said, you're not done with them. They're going to accuse you of stealing. I said, what? I didn't steal anything from them. He said, I started that daycare center with my own bank account. They accused me of stealing, and I never got the money back that I put into that daycare center. This will actually play into my sermon if it says what I said. Running a little late. Yes, I can preach all afternoon. This is actually from the person we were just talking about, which makes this even funnier. They accused me of stealing. I get a, all right, you can leave me alone now. I kind of know how it goes. I get a phone call from the Hill, one of the individuals. We need to talk to you. I walk in, and I hear him say to somebody else, we need 11 more chairs. I'm like, what? This is the elders? Give me a shot at them. Because I hadn't done enough time in prison. And my attitude was wrong when I was. I sit down. The accusation is you stole. I had already dealt with the pastor who accused me, and he said, oh, you're right. It's my fault. He had changed something in the financial records. It had nothing to do with stealing. It was just a clerical issue. And he already knew I didn't steal, and he wasn't in the room, and they were going to deal with the fact that I had stolen. I felt like, wait a minute, I'm in a chess game and everybody else brought checkers? Bring it on. And then arrogantly, the director of the ministry says, you know, we can take your credentials. And I'm like, here it comes. And the Lord stood right in front of me and looked in my face and said, this has nothing to do with what's going on behind me. This is me and you, tough guy. What do you got?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm looking at this from a whole different angle. I was this close to setting down my dream.
Yep.
Or at least slapping it out of the ballpark.
Yep.
That day when I left, I let the Lord know that He could do what He had to do to get through to me. I was angry, rebellious, like you said, authority issues kind of guy. And I somehow came to a place where I felt like, hey, if the authority's no good, you could walk all over it. You could talk about it behind its back. You do what you got to do. You just destroy that. Pharaoh's little buddies go back. You know the story. One of them gets elevated position. The other one loses his head. 2 more years in prison. Now, if I had made it through all the other things Joseph made it through, I'd be feeling like, I didn't do too bad. But now I've been forgotten. I got forgotten. Not doing this anymore. And you know how the story moves on. He winds up in charge of all of Egypt. There's some interesting quotes that Pharaoh says. When you see Joseph, you see me. What did Jesus say? When you see me, you see him. Anyone who needs anything, send them to Joseph. I will tell you this, if you refuse to set down with a dream, there are going to be people who need something, and they're going to get sent to you. There was another day, and it's good that they will never watch this video. I see a name pop up on my phone, and I look at it, and I say, oh, that's an hour and a half of my life. I don't want to do that. She cries every time. She calls and cries for hours. And she's going to another church in this town, like a lot of other people that call us, and I'll bet you he didn't pick up the phone. By the way, I'm being real here. You see the things that go on in my head that nobody sees? So that you don't feel as condemned about your own behavior when you get in the midst of situations. You can say, well, Pastor, it was worse than that. And I'm like, I don't want to do it. I'm going to hit ignore. Let her leave a message. I'll get back to her. Hi, Lynn. Pastor Lou, I'm so glad you picked up the phone. Charlie died this morning. Oh. I'm so glad I picked up the phone. I'm so glad I picked up the phone. And I'm going to text the other pastor in this town and tell him, why didn't you pick up the phone? Her husband died this morning. Thank you. I'm being sarcastic. I was glad I could be there for her. But there are going to be times in your life when you're going to feel like, can't I, Lord, just set this down for a little while. He's in prison. 2 more years forgotten. You know what? Slap that guy around and give me his food. No. You got to do the right thing, no matter what's going on around you.
Yes.
In the midst of what's going on, Joseph says, go back and get Benjamin. I want my little brother, littler of the rest of them. Do you know what Jacob actually says? Everything is against me. Exact quote. Everything is against me. You know what he doesn't know is going to be going on in a month? He's going to put his hand on the leader of the world and bless him. The world at that point. All of Egypt. Pharaoh. They're still talking about him on PBS specials. He's going to get to put his hand on him and bless him. And what comes out of his mouth is, it's all no good. Everything is against me. He gets to bless Pharaoh. Jacob gets told when he shows up in Egypt, give him the best of the land. How cool is that? And by the way, if there's anybody in your family particularly good with caring for animals, put them in charge of my animals too. That's what he says. And the Egyptians did not like shepherds. By the way, I set my heart, last Sunday I told Buddy what my title was going to be. This week I get a letter, it's right here, from the place that holds my credentials. And I want you to know, we walked through a lot of stuff with them, but they were maturing too. They hadn't done enough time in prison. I probably needed more time in prison than all of them. At Oasis 2017, which is their gathering of all the United States ministries and missionaries and everything, the president threw down a challenge. He's actually younger than I am. To dream again. I'm like, really? I don't think I received this.
Keep praying, keep praying.
You need to be dreaming. You need to be hanging on to the things that were said over you. If you don't have big dreams in your heart, I just want to add a few things that tend to come with the package here. You ready? These are the gifts of the Holy Spirit. You will move in all of these. You may not move powerfully in all of them, but all of them are at your fingertips. They're called gifts. Prophesying, serving in ministry, teaching, encouraging and exhorting, contributing to the needs of others or giving, leading, showing mercy or helping, messages of wisdom, words of knowledge, faith, healing, miraculous powers, prophecy, distinguishing spirits, speaking in other tongues or languages, or interpreting those. Now the fruits of the Spirit, fruits just grow. So those you got: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, goodness, faithfulness. It's actually actually not on my list. You know what? It was printed on another page. It never came off the printer.
Who is that?
He says that as a man with self-control. All right. So you remember the prophecy over me, a man of many lands and seas? Again, I don't say this to brag. I say this because it's hilarious and insane. I have somehow managed in my life to get to Holland, Scotland, North Africa, Morocco, England, India, Costa Rica, Indonesia, Jamaica, Mexico, and Israel. Doesn't that sound glamorous? World-traveling dude, you know. Well, the truth is, while I was up at that ministry, we ran a program that put teenagers out as missionaries. Every single place we put teenagers had to be visited every year. It was a chore for a lot of them. There were countries like India that no one else wanted to go. I'm like, I know. I think it'd be cool to have India in my passport. Whew, I earned every inch of that. Send the guy a telex in those days. No telex back. I ain't going. Because I did that in Jamaica, man. I sent a telegram to Jamaica. I will be there, and he didn't. No answer, and I wind up getting in country. I land in Kingston, Jamaica. I walk up to the taxi. I said, this is where I need to go. Robbins Bay, St. Mary's. Actually, Strawberry Fields from the Beatles song. And the taxi driver says, no. What? Never mind. I find another man. No problem. Next guy. No. All the way down the line, some raggedy-looking guy walks up. He says, hey, I'll take you. He's walking me out in the parking lot. He's always going to beat me up and take the money. We get all the way across he tells me he knows where we're going. Halfway across the country, he tells me I have no idea where we're going. Then he says, I think I've been here once when I was little, but I was crying a lot. What does that mean? I'm in a country, I speak the language, thank you, but we get to the missionary's house. We find it because I said, I'm looking for a white guy. And they're like, we know exactly which house. He takes me there, and a Jamaican answers the door. So, oh, this is not going well. I said, I'm looking for it. I forgot his name. He said, oh, no problem, man. He gone to country. I said, what? He's gone to country. What? He's gone out of the country. I have a $60 cab ride from the airport. And you're telling me this? I said, Henry, can you get me to the airport on Monday morning by 10 o'clock? No problem, man. I already read what it says. When they say that, don't listen. It doesn't mean there's no problem. It means there could very well be a major problem. So when it came time to go to India, I was like, no way. I'm not doing this in India because I don't speak Hindi at all. And it's not going to be no problem, man. It's going to be, you a big problem. We never find that day. So I didn't go the first trip. The plane I was supposed to be on coming back got hijacked. It landed in, where did it land? Egypt, somewhere where they shot 2 people, threw them out on the runway. Remember that one? I would have been a big mouth guy who hadn't been in prison long enough saying, Allah's my God, you guys don't know what you're talking, shoot me first. I would have been the guy. So I wasn't on that, thank you, because I didn't go the first time. Second time I went to India, the guy in the airport, he goes, I said, are you John Bridge? He said, yeah. I said, how do you know? He said, my wife had a dream. She told me exactly what you looked like. I started being prophetic and everything and whatever. We did it. So, I've been to those places, but when I look back at that, I look back and it was horrible. I couldn't take Karen with me. I'm sitting in Holland. I'm so lonely and bored. I'm like, can I have a bicycle? I have a bicycle around Holland, and I don't speak that language either. And there really is a Church of Satan in town with a label out front right across from the YWAM base. And there's really women and barely dressed in store windows. And I'm like, yay, I'm in Holland and they don't have time for me. And I'm checking out this site, so I'm going to put 20 teenagers here for the whole summer. Anyway, here's how God is comical about dealing with this. In 2014, we go out to Phoenix to do a wedding. We're gathered with the family before the wedding, and there's this woman sitting at a table all alone. I'm like, who's that? That's, what's his name's mail order Russian bride. It's like, well, doesn't he pay attention to her? So I go over and I sit down. So, where you from? Where you from? And she says, oh, you wouldn't know it. It's...
Sounds like Jersey.
Belarus. I said, Minsk? She's like, she says, yeah. I said, oh, I only know about this place because one of my friends from Bible school who wore his ties with the seam on the outside because he wasn't the kind of guy to look in the mirror, and his dad was a Wyoming senator. So it wasn't like he was uncouth in how he had to live at home. It wasn't the first time he wore a tie. He moved to that area of Russia and had done a worship school. So I'm like, can I borrow your smartphone? Because I got one of these. And I'm like, Belarus, Minsk, I type in Dave Brunk. Epic worship, best this and that. And I'm like, really? Cool, Dave, you did something. And a song starts playing, I hand her back her little tablet. I'll never forget this image. She's holding that thing by her ear and she's just crying. And God is touching her heart. And I'm like, Lord, I don't know anything else about any other area in Russia at all. And the only reason I know about that is I went to school with him and he was a bit of a nut. And I hadn't even talked to him in 10, 12, 15 years. And it's changing her life right in front of me. I was like, that's pretty cool. Then, while we're still with the family, they said, oh, this is our church secretary and she's from Holland. And I'm like, I only know one thing about Holland. The guy who runs the YWAM, Youth with Mission Base. The guy who runs the Youth with a Mission Base, his name is Bart Dornweir. And I only remember it because that's his name. I was like, I've dealt with 20 YWAM bases and it's honestly the only name I remember. So, reaching into my shorts, I say, do you know Bart Dornweir? And she's like, yes, you know Bart? And I'm thinking, yes, he's the man who had no time for me and left me alone in my room. And I bicycled endlessly around Holland, trying not to get lost. I'm sitting there at the table, I can feel the Lord laughing. Like, world traveler, many lands and many seas. These people believe that now. Because the only two foreigners in their whole church arrangement, you happen to just hook them both up. It was like, Lord, you're a comedian. This is hilarious.
He is a comedian.
Yes, he is. And week before, I actually got to tour the Barcode House out on the island. It goes up for auction on the 28th with no reserve, with 4 real estate agents pretending to be wealthy enough to actually buy it. Because the 4 real estate agents wanted to see it, and they needed somebody who was willing to dress real nice and play the part. So it was fun, right? I'm in the house. This actually has meaning to what I was talking about, believe it or not. I'm in the house, and their realtor for the auction, by the way, it's for sale for $20 million, $4,000 a week in real estate tax. She takes me into a room and she says, this is the Moroccan room. And I'm thinking, we've been to Morocco. So it comes out of my mouth. I'm trying not to be pretentious, but I'm supposed to be a billionaire or something, so play the part, right? I said, oh yeah, I've been to Morocco. I lost 21 pounds in 2 weeks. I got diarrhea so bad. There's a 2-inch, 3-inch hole in a flat cement slab. You're supposed to go in that. And when stuff's coming out of your body at 200 miles an hour, it is impossible to get it to go into that hole. That's what I'm remembering. But I'm a world traveler, so I say, oh, the smells in Morocco, and yes, this is Moroccan room. And again, the Lord's laughing.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, to sum this all up, the guy who threw his vision and his dream on the table and walked away and buried his son is right now on a plane to come and visit Karen and I and hang out with us for a week.
Praise God.
And we have been there to help him pick it back up and dust it off. He's leading a men's group in New York. We put our car on a train last year and went up to New York State and spent a few days with them because I knew somebody needs to reach out to him and help him walk this out. And what was really cool, I'm out on my bicycle, and the Lord just gave me such a clear vision of their son landing in heaven, which I know has got to be a question mark in Mom's heart. And it was so real, I think it was me, of just my battle plan when I get to heaven. Son threw himself on the ground and just started saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, forgive me, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I saw the Lord walk over, pick him up, and say, enough, enough. Stood him up. And then he just hugged him, which is my plan too. Say, thank you, thank you, thank you. And he was just saying, thank you, thank you. And Mom and Dad just started crying. And he said, thank you for setting us free. And here's what God does that's so insane. The wife's brother has a Disney timeshare. And he was going to come to Vero and use his timeshare and bring them, and then he backed out. So basically, he's sending them for a week for free. And we're going to get to spend a week with them. I want to encourage you, don't give up. Don't set it down. Don't let the people around you set it down. They're doing it all the time. There are people in this town, I see old people who are like, I am washed up, there's nothing, I will never do anything of value for anybody. That guy Dan that said he put the gun to his head, he has to convince himself to live every day. The next morning I'm out with the motorcycle and Dan comes over, he says, you don't mind if I tell you what to do, right? Nope, I forget more stuff than I knew. And I said, go for it. And a lady who needs a ride to a grocery store shows up, I hooked him up and he's driving her off, and now there's a glimmer in his eyes, I can do stuff for people. I don't need to put a gun to my head. I have some value for some people. We need to be about that.
Yes.
Wendy said, don't sit on your dream, don't sit on your vision. That was like at the end of her message. Some of us have sat on them. I've sat on mine. I've thrown it around the room. I've kicked it. I begged God to take it back. I've done all kinds of fun stuff. But there is nothing more fulfilling than seeing it be a success. There's nothing more fulfilling than knowing we're going to get to spend a week with them. And they're so excited, like we're God's gift to them. And I'm thinking, I am praying all week. Let me live up to half of their expectations, please.
Yes.
And I'll just read you the messages that he sent. We can start a ministry. We'll call it the Two Italians. He's having big dreams and visions again. I'm going to tell Disney, I will preach in the lobby, just give me a microphone. Then he texted me, his sense of humor is insanity. Carried me through some dark times, suffering against the religious controlling stuff you go through when you go to a Bible school or a place like that, especially when they're moving into freedom. He said, no, you made that the most fun job I've ever had in my life. God does that for us. He can use somebody else to bless them. He does that for us. That's the coolest thing you'll ever do.